Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Somers Town Board Work Session, starting here at 7:05 on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. Before we start tonight, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is anybody out here for public comment? No? Okay.
You have to open.
Well, no, I'll make a motion to open up public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You give
And
them
then-
a test here.
I know. And then, and also I'll make the motion now to close out public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
I
I'll move.
like it. You spoke up. Got a group on the absolutely.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. All right, town board update. So I'd just like to go over something here. So last Friday, I had the privilege of holding a press conference here at Town Hall with Assemblyman Matt Slater, Yorktown Supervisor Ed Lackerman, Piaget, Sol Piaget from the Putnam Westchester Women's Resource Center, and survivor Christina Ramundi. We gathered to discuss the crucial Safe Housing Transfer Domestic Violence Victims Act. This legislation is essential and deserves strong bipartisan support. Currently, survivors of domestic abuse living in a rental or affordable housing face a significant challenge. If they decide to leave their current situation, if they are in an affordable unit, they must re-enter the housing lottery to find a safe place to live. This process can lead to homelessness or unstable living conditions, which is just plain unacceptable. I was grateful to contribute to the bill, some input that I was able to help with the Assemblyman. And this bill aims to help survivors find safety without jeopardizing their housing situation by allowing the landlords to move victims to another housing unit without the need to re-enter the lottery system. This enhances protection against landlord retaliation and removes the financial obstacles that threaten victims, ensuring they have a safe path forward. This issue goes beyond just housing. It also impacts public safety and mental health, which myself and many of these gentlemen up here are trying to help our Somers residents when it comes to the mental health crisis. No one should have to recount the trauma to secure shelter. So I urge our community, I urge our elected officials to support this essential initiative, and then together we can make a significant difference for those who have endured so much.
Where do we sign?
Yeah, I wish it was that easy. Talking number 2, town update, 5 Cottage Place. The demo has been completed. We had a site walk today at Reese Park for the access road. We're waiting to see when the bids come in. They should be coming in the next couple weeks. And then also on May 31st, we have our 200th anniversary of the Elephant Hotel. So we're doing a little celebration here in town at Town Hall for the Elephant Hotel. And that again is on May 31st, and that starts at 11 o'clock. Let's move on to number 2 here. We do have a Westchester County update, and we have Chairman Vidat Gashi and Legislator Erica Pierce. She's got a promotion today.
Yeah, I want that.
That's right, right, Terrell.
Good evening. I'm Vidat Gashi, legislator representing half of Somers and chair of the Westchester County Board of Legislators.
Erica Pierce, county legislator for the other half of Somers. So nice to see you, Supervisor, off
Thank you.
various Zooms that we've been on lately.
Yes,
Really happy to hear about the update.
yes, we're moving right along with it.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that was that could be part of the update, but yeah, the work on and making sure that we can support that project in Reese Park is something that we both worked hard to support and promote, and eager to see it finished.
Well, I thank you for that.
I know, of course. We've had a busy beginning of the year, and from the tail end of last year, where we started with the authorization for the stop arm cameras on buses that piloted. And
Somers was such a huge part of the launch for that. So
yeah, thank you for that. And then it was part of the information and the data that we got from here. Other districts helped us promote and and justify the rollout for the entire county. So this is a program that is good, and it's great to get it started. There's a number of projects. I'm just going to go some of the bills that we passed recently, some of the things that we worked on. We passed a bill recently on the unlawful use of deceptive materials to target and or to address the issue of AI and some of the manner in which it's been used to perpetrate fraud, and to allow the district attorney and our law enforcement to be able to address those situations.
Is internet fraud like?
It's the use of AI. So what's been happening is they'll mimic someone's voice, and a grandparent will think that their
Yeah.
grandchild has
That
been.
happened to my
It's a
sister.
supercharged
Happened to your
grandparent.
sister?
My sister, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those scams have been going on for a while, but with AI, they become supercharged. It also addresses things like, unfortunately, there's software that can be used to make someone look like they are not clothed. And there isn't a law in the books previously that actually.
Really?
It sounds funny, but it's not funny in
Really?
context. It's used in schools and in other environments.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately,
Wow.
for harassment.
Yeah.
So this is a tool that law enforcement will
School's
now
crazy.
have.
It is.
Right, exactly. To be able to take that on, because we have, if you use someone's actual picture against their wishes, there's a law for that.
Right.
But if you have a picture that looks like it's them, but it's not them, there wasn't any law in the book for that. So now we have one.
Now that's a county or is that?
a county?
Law.
Well, I would think the state would want to
Well,
replicate.
lots of good state laws that come from the county originally. So
I mean, is that a plan?
Pro,
Is that
oh,
okay?
who knows what, as I said, I like Westchester County.
Okay.
I think it is a law that should be in the state.
It would seem to me.
We would like it in the state, and until the state takes it up, we in the county address the issue. I think it's one of those things where it's not in the state yet. There isn't. There is a hole, a vacuum, and that we're trying to address an issue as people are being harmed by this.
So this gives you the ability to prosecute, but
Well,
it's not
treated as a
admits.
misdemeanor, right? So it's not, there are levels of crime that we can't just have on the county level.
Right.
But this fills a hole. It allows for something to happen, for some kind of repercussions for this. But yes, as my colleague said, it would be better still if we had this at a higher level so we can have even bigger punishments. And
Sorry to digress.
no, this is important stuff. It's important stuff.
Oh, digress. This is, again, it was an effort spearheaded by a colleague of ours, Judah Holstein, who was, and he brought it forward. Sometimes you hear about these things and you think, well, of course, there's a law that covers it, and
then you're
there
like,
just
oh, no.
isn't.
Right.
And again, we'll reiterate that we would like to see this happen in the state level as well. Until that happens, we're not going to let it continue on the county level unaddressed. So that was that effort. On volunteer firefighters and EMS, we passed the state allowed,
Finally, after years of lobbying.
after years of lobbying, well, tax credit for those who serve in a volunteer fire or EMS circumstance, but in a neighboring town, to receive a county tax credit, even though they work in another town in Westchester. We can provide a tax credit at a time when recruitment is really a difficult thing for volunteer fire and EMS. This is one of the efforts to help promote and support that.
So this is the county level of this. Every town has their ability to either adopt or not adopt this. This came to me originally from our local firefighters, and there was a couple. One was in the fire department, one was in EMS. They were living in Lewisboro, but both volunteering in Katona, and so neither of them were able to get their tax credit or tax exemption because they were not living in the same town that they volunteer in. I know we have a number of volunteers at Katona who live in Somers or Lewisboro. So this is finally an opportunity for them to get their thank you from the county. The towns are still within their controls to decide to do it or not do it. I know it's a different math for the towns. Bedford, I think, did adopt this recently. But for us on the county level, this was a really important opportunity to be able to, these folks are giving, they need to get their thank you. And no one, when you come for a fire, no one says, hey, can I check your ID? Are you actually from my town before you come in to put the fire out? So we were happy to get this done.
So this someone in Somers who volunteers in Bedford, and you're right, there are a number of them, I know.
Right.
So they would get credit on their tax bill from Somers
From the.
or the
county.
county,
Yeah, this
County.
only gives. them
Right,
credit
I
on
Only from the county.
right,
But if Somers were to adopt it, right? So.
right,
So the town has control over their own,
yes.
with their own house.
And obviously, previously, you only had that tax credit if you were a Somers resident volunteering in Somers.
Right.
In some ways, a nonsensical. If a person could live right here, volunteer there,
Right.
and not get the tax credit for the same exact work.
That's true. I mean, a lot of people who you volunteer at a certain firehouse in say Katona, but you moved to Somers, but you've been there for 20 years.
Or your dad still.
You don't want to leave. You don't want to leave the firehouse that you grew up in and worked in and had that camaraderie with.
Or you might live in Somers, but work during the day in Katona, in which case Katona's thrilled to have on their volunteer crew, because that means there's someone else there during the workday to answer the call. When I first started talking to New York State about this years back, the comment from them was, we're afraid that it will draw people away from one town to another. So let's say your local fire department isn't very robust, doesn't have a lot of tools, but the one next door, it's a really great firehouse, and it might draw people from one to the other. I understand where that logic was coming from. But for here in Westchester, where we are, I don't think that was ever the dominant issue. It was just really trying to give back to these people who give so much.
That's a county issue, really,
Yeah,
because
So
part of the tax bills.
exactly. So it just
County-
finally gave us the ability
Fine.
to choose to do it. They
Right.
put it on us.
Okay.
Yeah, there are occasions where people will say, can you give a tax credit for this or that? And we are bound by state laws, and would have been prohibited previously from giving that credit. Now we have the opportunity. The moment we had that opportunity, we
We jumped
seized
on
it
it.
and we passed it. So I think it's a good thing. A bunch of our effort recently and has been concerning the proposed rate hike from Con Edison. Obviously, that Con Edison doesn't cover Somers, and NYSEG's rate hike case is coming really soon.
3-year, program where they,
Well, actually, you could tell us when it's coming.
Yeah,
you'd have to go.
May.
Over there, yeah.
You should be on the other side and telling us about it. Yeah, no, but there's been a lot of complaints, a lot of concerns. And NYSEG was able to come at the invitation of Senator Harcum and Slater to Yorktown and Carmel.
Right.
But I don't go to Carmel.
I know. Stop at the board. I stop at 6.
But no, so we obviously have a lot more work that needs to be done. And do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the conversation before about the day-night meter program, and that continues to be an issue. The rates again in the last, bunches of months have been terrible for that program, and I'm still getting calls from seniors. And I know we've had conversations even up in Albany about how that program needs to be, restructured. So
And that's a big deal up in Heritage Hills.
it's a
know.
really big deal. And for anybody
Others in
home listening to this,
Westchester.
right? If you see on your on off on your bill and you're wondering why your bill is so high, on the top part, it will have different meters that say on and off. You are in the day-night meter program. And there are times when those meter rates, again, I should have your colleague here come over here and give this lecture, where those rates can be great, but when they're bad, they're really bad because they're unhedged. They're not protected. You're kind of gambling. And unfortunately, the season where those who are living on a fixed budget, which is the winter season, where those bills can be highest, is when those rates are the highest. And so I think we had whole periods of time where even the night rate was worse than the regular standard rack daytime rate. And so we've had people with thousands of dollars bills calling for help on that. So I understand the PSC is a piece of that puzzle, and you guys, I guess, need some kind of approval to get some fix, as I've been told by your team. So bend on the horn with PSC and try to figure out how to get this done. It's really important for residents to be fixed.
This is an issue for us, but this is a huge, complicated, larger issue. I mean, the fact is that your energy bills have doubled over the rates have doubled in the last 5 years for transmission and supply.
Mhm.
And that has to do with public policy and choices. It has to do with, the schedule to try to, move programs, school bus programs to electrify them by 2030. I mean, there's not capacity.
I'd push back on
there to-
that respectfully, because I think
We need you to push back, but I think the
Right.
point is that, you just want to make is that there's no end to this, there's no, to these rate increases, and these policies are compounding them.
well,
They're going to get worse.
we moved over to electric and hybrid vehicles for the county is that our bills went down a heck of a lot because they're happen to be more efficient. And I think, frankly, relying on yesterday's technology is not going to answer tomorrow's problems. And there's going to have to be some, there's going to have to be some answer to it. The sudden jumps, the people are hurting right now, and people are seeing a sudden jump in their bills right now. And a lot of times it's in the delivery rather than the commodity. And there's a lot of, the day-night meter was mentioned. There's certain things that when somebody reaches out to me and says, I'm hurting, my bill is too high for reasons that they don't understand, I think it is our responsibility to explain that as best we can, help them understand it, and help answer it rather than try to blame some system or another. But yeah, it is a constant consideration. In the Con Ed rate hike case, we took the proactive step of becoming a party. So by resolution and by act of the county executive, we entered as a party on the Con Edison case so that we can have the greatest amount of transparency and get some answers to our local questions. We expect and hope to do the same for the Somers.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
for
for the
NYSEG,
NYSEG
if
when
it's
it comes up.
appropriate, right? We don't know what that rate increase question is. But I mean, just to your particular point, I mean, I was in DC for I sit on a committee for National Association of Counties, and we had a huge presentation on it from the American Gas Association that talked about national rate increases. And so this had nothing to do with Westchester. This was rates throughout the country for electricity. And everywhere the rates are going up, but they had it broken down, different buckets, what was driving it. And I will tell you from that presentation, which again was not about Westchester, that yes, there was a line, or I think what you're talking about are kind of those environmental initiatives, but the biggest increase was increased manufacturing needs across the country. So those are data centers, those are Bitcoin operations, there are all sorts of things which are really jacking up usage of utilities throughout the country, which have nothing to do with those other issues. But, you and I may have some disagreements on some of those issues, but the one thing I think you and I can agree on, that we have to be very thoughtful about how we make our plans. We have to keep residents and ratepayers in mind, and we have to make certain that what we're doing really is for a benefit for us, if it's not right now, at least down years, some years from now, but without there being real benefit for this, without thoughtful application, you're right, we could end up in a heap of trouble.
I think we're thinking an agreement. It's all about planning.
Right.
And there's more, there's more demand than there is supply. So and if you move forward, and you don't sort of address those discrepancies, it comes out in the rate, right? More pressure on rate. And it's just been very difficult for folks here locally.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work that you do on the smaller issues, which are not small, but in the wintertime, you get a seasonal spike, you have issues going on at Heritage Hills. The day-night meters are creating an additional problem. And I get cut, my residents are basically saying, I came home from Florida and I have $1,000 bill.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, how's that?
And that should not be,
And I wasn't even home.
there's no scenario under which that should be happening.
Oh.
So-
Yeah, and we have and I would
Appreciate any effort you guys do.
On that note, and Tom, box your ears. We're having the public utility law project. I know that the state folks have already done one of these, but we have another online meeting for folks who are NYSEG ratepayers to better understand their bill, what their rights are, what the programs are, and also to just talk about the landscape before the next rate request comes in. And that's on May 13th. We'll be sending out information about that. We just
That's for NYSEG, you're saying?
just for NYSEG. The last one that was done by the state folks was for 3 different utility companies. This is only for NYSEG.
Again,
folks.
May 13th at 6 PM. I think it's a remote.
It is all
option,
remote.
All remote, so.
But you raise a good point, and last month, I believe, Assemblyman Slater was here and talking about somewhat of the same issue. We kind of diverged off. I mean, it's a national problem
It's a national,
because demand will continue to increase. We should decrease demand where possible through conservation, et cetera. But there's going to be a huge demand for energy going forward from artificial intelligence.
well, that's,
And
I say the manufacturing, the
Right.
data centers are a big part of it.
Microsoft is building their own nuclear plant to deal with their own electrical needs for what they and for artificial intelligence. Well, that just gives you some tip of the iceberg of what's going to be in the future. So it requires, I mean, more than Westchester, more than New York State, it really does require a national solution or a national, think of something and plan.
Right.
It's not going to be fixed next year, but it's got to have a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year plan on that, both conservation, but also the generation part of it, because it's a huge problem.
And I think part of the issue, and it's
Nothing new there, right?
frankly, nothing new in our, and a lot of the issues we'll cover, we're not going to be able to control what the federal government is doing going forward, and that's not our role in government.
Right.
The municipal responsibilities between zoning and those remain within the municipalities yourselves. From our vantage point at the county, even if we can't control it, we can help with the education. And I would, again, commend NYSEG and Con Ed for some of the work that they've done to educate and address these concerns. But, well, I was going to curse. A lot more is needed. A lot more is needed because there are people still hurting and still woefully uninformed about some things that would decrease their bills tomorrow.
I mean, we're worried about the HEAP program next year. I know we have seniors all over Westchester County who rely on HEAP, which for folks who don't know what HEAP is, that's a home energy assistance program that runs. There's a summer version of it to keep cool, and there's a winter version, folks from losing their utilities if they got an oil delivery that won't come because they haven't paid their bill. All oil burners fail. I've had 2 oil burners that were replaced in my district for seniors during COVID. They did not have the money to replace them and it went through HEAP, and the entire staff for that program, the federal government, was just let go. So, some of the tools that we've used to kind of cover over some of these issues, I'm not certain what we'll have next year. And that's another, thing worrying on the radar for that.
Well, and
Been any discussion, speaking about power and power generation, has there been any discussion or rumors about reopening Indian Point?
I don't know if that's none that I've heard of. It's again outside of my.
Yeah.
It's not a decision that would fall to the county.
Mhm.
But no, not one that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I don't know if that one can be dialed back. I mean, if you're asking whether
It's
I
decommissioned,
support
yeah.
nuclear energy, I think nuclear energy is great. They just have to be well run and well placed and
Safe.
be safe. Right, but I am in no way opposed to it. And the answer may be, I heard this when we were in DC, instead of the focus on these very large plants, but more smaller plants dotted throughout the country, which might be the right solution.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
this is
that is part of the
complicated.
discussion.
Yeah.
It's a complicated
It's a big,
issue.
complicated, but we're going to live or die by it. So you're absolutely right to bring up how important it is.
But, it's beyond our auspices, but we've used the bully pulpit to essentially get things done with NYSEG over the years.
Mhm.
And they've capitulated, they've reinforced their network down here and, they've made investments. But, you're going to be in a negotiation for a rate increase over the next 3 years. The last one was like a 25% over 3 years. The one before that was probably a similar amount. That's 5-7% a year. And then most recent, and those were all put in place
Right.
because they have to keep the network running and the trees trimmed and all the stuff. But then just recently, they have this storm restoration charge that is essentially to do, to pay for things that were restored years ago, but, they're putting it in the rate base. Well, the bill that came in this month is like 13% higher than, it was the
NYSEG
prior month.
payer.
What's that?
I'm a NYSEG payer.
And also,
Fair?
No, I'm kind of,
and also, Con Ed.
Yeah.
This is a Public Service Commission, interpretation. And yeah, I mean, all this stuff needs to be done to build resiliency into the network, but it's really good. It's really on the backs of, our residents, and it's getting very, very burdensome for them.
and then that's why, we entered the case in the Con Edison, and I guess you're being more diplomatic. I see ourselves, I see us entering the NYSEG case when it comes up, in part so we can have our voices, not just a bully pulpit, but we represent constituents and making sure those voices are heard and our issues addressed.
And particularly for NYSEG folks, because we often get left out of the discussion because most of the county is Con Ed. And so there is a focus on Con Ed in the county. So, but as a county legislator who happens to also be a NYSEG ratepayer, I'm going to do my best to make certain that we don't get separate treatment or different
Right.
from the Con Ed.
Appreciate your efforts.
And I do want to also say that the storm recovery, there are things that NYSEG is doing so much better than years past. I don't want this all to be a negative conversation. I remember having periods of time in past years where we were without power for weeks.
No, I agree with
It's
that.
been a long time since I've had anything other than a day. And so I want to say that I am certainly grateful for that change, especially since every time my power goes out, my basement floods. So
I mean, we've
No, I
done
would've-
things here. I mean, the supervisor, and we give them access to park trucks in areas over here. So during storm situations, there's a sense of readiness.
right.
Yeah.
And that all came about, 5 years ago when, we were on the boards and
This room,
you were on the board before you worked,
right?
worked for the,
This room.
right. So
Yep.
I would,
that goes back to the bully pulpit.
Well,
As
and-
part of those meetings back going, I mean, originally, the attitude of NYSEG was, well, we can't help this and we can't help that and we can't help this. And Tom was there then, and he did a great job chairing that. And at one point I said, well, if you can't do anything, what the heck are we doing here? You're telling me you can't do anything about anything. Well, they have had a change in leadership, and I would agree, at least in terms of communication with the people, you can get updates right on your phone. So I think in that way they've been much better. Their customer service has been, and their tree cutting program has certainly helped. They've increased the budget there. So yeah, you're right. They're improving, and
And they also
and
fortified
get better.
poles and network.
Right. Yep.
There,
Those reclosures, various things that have been
Reclosures are much better.
made a big
Yeah.
difference, for sure.
there absolutely have.
And that costs money, and that's why they've,
There absolutely
Yes.
have been improvements, and then we can't ignore that. At the same time, I'm a Con Ed customer because of where I live, and I don't have a choice otherwise.
you know what you're.
Legislator Pierce is a NYSEG customer, has no choice on the matter. People who have no choice on the provider are being negatively impacted. They're hurting, and people are really mad that at a time where they're seeing these companies seem to be seeing record profits, where and on an issue where they cannot choose the provider, those bills continue to go up. So we want to make sure that we are indeed holding accountable the people who are providing a service with no competition otherwise.
Because you can't have all 5 different companies going down the street putting up lines. So the Public Service Commission is created to regulate those price increases, and we all have a choice in terms of the supplier of that lines.
Sorry for hijacking you, President.
That's okay. We're talking about utilities a lot these days.
Well, another area where the bully pulpit is relevant or was relevant because it's not exactly an area within our control, but obviously a situation that has very strong advocacy and concern here in Somers has been started with the battery energy storage systems. going on in Carmel. You're all aware of some of the efforts, some of the letters we put in, and I commend Legislator Pierce for spearheading and pushing a lot of that effort. We're glad to see that the Carmel stopped that. But that's another area where the state has to do better, where just because it was over the county line or the town line and county line, both there, they could ignore the impact to families, homeowners and families on this side because they didn't have any constituents on that side that did it. That's got to be addressed throughout the state. But one of the, so glad to see that that was successfully resolved. One of the things we found is that there are energy, the battery energy storage systems throughout municipalities existing, and our first responders were not, there's no central database of where they were. When people go, there are these battery energy storage systems pose specific dangers to first responders. The environmental concerns are one thing, but also when they burn, how are they addressing that? They have to address them differently. If they do not know where these battery energy storage systems are, they are priming themselves to be hurt. And when, and as Legislator Pearson, I'm stepping on your toes a little bit, I
That's
apologize.
fine.
But when first responders came to us and asked, we need to have an inventory of these things so we know what we're getting into, we were able to step in, and that's one of the ways that we were able to be helpful. So we just passed that one, I believe, at the last meeting.
Right.
This is the last meeting.
But for clarity, this is not in any way a bill that is promoting the siting of best storage units, and the units that were being addressed at that moment in time are much smaller. That facility that was being contemplated right over the border here. And so I think there was some confusion about whether this was somehow coverage for allowing for best units, that the county was somehow supporting best storage facilities. And we just want to be very clear that that was not the purpose. This was a request directly from.
Under what
Again, the
circumstances
larger,
do we
larger
allow?
issue with those, they're hazardous materials.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're not capable, there's no capability. Inventorium is a good idea, but there's no capability to handle an adverse event
100%.
up here and maybe not even anywhere in the county. I mean, so
Well, and I
I can't
hear
speak from the
Yeah.
audience, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
we can't, they can't speak from the crowd, but I will repeat what they said. If you want to stop it, you can ban it. The responsibility for banning it rests with local municipalities and local zoning. So I would invite the local.
We
municipalities.
have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think
Um,
almost all
so-
the towns in my district have put in those
Restriction.
restrictions.
Yeah.
But we obviously need support from the state level to make certain that this all works right. And again, you know, the firefighters asked for that legislation, and I certainly was not going to say no to them. So I just want to make that very, very clear.
Can the county ban all BESs?
I don't
going
think we
forward?
can, but we have been having those conversations back and
Yeah.
forth with the lawyer since your very first situation over the border in Carmel.
The conversation, and it's in my coming soon section, which we're pretty much at, but one of the things we're looking at is, again, within our, we don't control local zoning. We see that and obviously it's a local competency. To the extent that we can on county land, ban it. That's what we're looking at now and working on getting through. Because again, we have, these are posing specific dangers, and those specific dangers should not be put proximate or close to families and homes and our, you know.
And particularly in areas, I'm sorry, that's just distracting, but areas that have well water, right? Which we all have up here. We know because we're in meetings all the time about it. The fire that happened on the West Coast,
Mhm.
they are finding that there are heavy metals and various other elements now in the groundwater. So we have that as an additional layer of consideration up here in terms of these facilities. So, you know, the stakes are high.
So I think this one, again, Bully again, we appreciate the efforts from the municipalities, and I invite you to keep doing it, because from our vantage point and from your vantage point, it's together that we're going to be able to have any kind of influence and support. And then that goes for the utilities situations as well. We're inviting opportunities for people to speak up and speak out because it's going to be our voices together that make the impact. Going quickly to our coming soon section otherwise, or I will before you say some of the projects that are coming really soon are an apprenticeship bill that would require all projects over what's the number? Is it $250,000
Yeah, there is a threshold that's being.
above a
worked out.
threshold? Require them to have an apprenticeship program for to support labor and
Who would those be aimed at? I mean, at what age? Are we aimed at high school kids?
Yeah, so apprenticeship
yeah.
programs are usually for folks out of high school. My father had one with an electrical when he was a young person. In fact, up at BOCES, just yesterday, they had an apprenticeship fair. It was,
That's who it's aimed at?
yeah, so
Younger
it's folks coming, I mean, sometimes it
And-
could be people after 2 years of college or
Yeah.
after 4 years of college. It's not exclusively for folks coming out of high school, but a lot of the folks who take on those apprenticeships are.
But it could be a person who's changing careers, let's say
Correct.
30s?
Yeah, most labor.
I'm just
unions
wondering.
have
Yeah, I'm not
apprenticeship
certain.
programs.
Not like I'm changing careers
Yeah.
past that, but
Gonna be.
should have changed careers. Long
Right.
time ago.
Well, actually, that like a whole bunch of others is a situation where they're going to be the labor unions already have apprenticeship programs, and they're going to understand it better than we will. That's why we're including.
Yeah.
Our friends in labor from the Central Labor Body, AFL-CIO, and building trades and
The important thing about apprenticeship programs is you can't run them if you don't have guaranteed slots for those apprentices to work. And so the whole point of having this legislation is to guarantee a pipeline of those. It's like there's a hands-on component.
Okay, I got you.
You're doing med school, right? You had to be able to then have your hands-on component in a hospital. If they don't have a hospital to match you with, then the whole program doesn't work. So similarly for the apprenticeship programs, they need to have these spots for
Yeah.
apprentices
Good.
to go to. Con Ed had a huge table also, interestingly, that was very hot at the at BOCES yesterday. So that's another thing coming through the pipeline.
that's coming really soon. Another is a bill that we're working that's should be coming up very soon. I think our public input on it is coming on responsible bidders. What's happened on occasion is somebody will bid, will win tender, will be selected to do work, and they will default in some fashion, sometimes pretty egregiously. Sometimes it's actual fraud. What we found was that when that happens, we don't have a list to prevent it from happening. So if the same person could theoretically bid for another project, now, if it's the same people reviewing it, obviously they're going to say, hey, I know XYZ did this. We don't want to let it rely on somebody's memory or the existing person. Whoever comes going forward should know that the person, that the people bidding on our county's projects, which there are quite a few, are responsible and haven't defaulted, have made good on the projects they've done so far. Ensuring that happens going forward is, I think, something that we're all going to benefit from.
So I'm the head chair of Public Works and Transportation. So this bill has been an important product for my committee. And as I think you probably have also in Somers, you have to give the job to the lowest responsible bidder. So how you determine responsible bidder and making certain there's a structured process for people to perhaps even respond to you if they disagree that you found them not responsible is really what this bill is all about. So it just codifies our process, gives it some structure, and gives the ability for any trades folks who might have bid and not been chosen as responsible to have their say as well, to argue back in their defense. So to me, it's in a really important system. I know we've seen projects here languish. The Lasden house is a great example of projects that really struggled. So we want to make certain that our projects are done effectively, efficiently, and really at the lowest fair price, as opposed to folks who underbid just to get in the door and then
Yeah, right.
have those issues along the way.
And the last program I'll talk about today is one that's near and dear, but the Blue Envelope program exists in other localities. We're bringing it to Westchester. Now, what the Blue Envelope program addresses is drivers on the onto autism spectrum, that disabled community. It provides a literal blue envelope where they will have their license and registration therein. The idea is this community has specific needs, and law enforcement would benefit from knowing that going into a situation. This is a program that's been lauded by the disabled community activists. It was brought to, like all good ideas, somebody else had it, and we're just promoting it. The disabled community would benefit from people knowing that they are in that their particular special needs. And then on the law enforcement, we've had a lot of really useful conversations. They would benefit from knowing going in as well, because knowing and understanding the situation, helping that communication will help them do their job better and address their health and safety as well. So
Is this something that community is asking for? And I'm assuming,
Yes.
but I'll ask that voluntary? Because I can
Yes.
appreciate how
Yeah,
some
no, it is
people
definitely.
can see a benefit and some people can say, I don't want to be put in a bucket that I don't want to be put in.
It's like our Sunflower program at the airport. We don't require anyone to participate in that program. If you,
Mhm.
anyone not familiar, so if you go to the White Plains Airport, and you are someone who has a hidden disability of whatever sort,
Mhm.
autism is a great example.
Mm.
You can choose to self-identify yourself with a specific lanyard and then get, specific treatment as you go through TSA and all the other places which that handling could be very difficult for a
Mm.
family with a young kid who has autism or even a grown person with autism. But no one is forced to identify. This is giving someone the option
Mhm.
so that when they have that interaction, whether it's with a police officer because you got pulled over, because
Mhm.
you missed a light, or whether it's at the airport as you're going through TSA and someone goes to pat you down, so they understand that your response may not look like what they're expecting and they don't overreact as a byproduct.
At Westchester County Airport, do they have people who are trained?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Almost the entire airport staff, including the folks in the food area, have been trained.
Okay.
It's been a priority for the county.
Now, this Blue Envelope, I've not heard of this. My daughter is the president of an organization in New York City, Fast Feed NYC, that deals primarily with autistic people. Would those clients of hers throughout the city, do they carry the Blue Envelope with them, or that's their choice, or is it just in schools, in cars that they would keep it? How?
He's working on this legislation, but I think it's specifically for drivers, right?
this is for drivers.
Oh, okay.
And then
The driver stopped and you don't have a misunderstanding at midnight
Correct,
with
right.
officer.
So the officer
behind
comes over
belts,
and maybe
tra-
that person is stimming and moving in an erratic way.
Right, and okay.
Really want to keep.
So it's really a safety matter
really
there.
an important safety.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it's again one of those areas where the disabled community is promoting and asking for this.
Yeah.
Also, law enforcement.
Right.
It's been a great opportunity where, and it's a relatively straightforward and simple thing, and for allow better communication in those circumstances to avoid catastrophic results.
Yeah.
That'll be hard for all parties.
Yeah.
So that's coming very soon.
Okay, we've been up here a long time. Get a hot foot through my parks updates really quickly, or far longer than you probably wanted.
Apologies, guys.
So we have a ton of county parks up in this area. I'm lucky to represent them all. So that's Muscoot, Lasden. I don't get to claim Hilltop. I'd like to claim Hilltop. It's not technically in Somers, but it's pretty darn close.
Blues golf courses?
And the golf courses, right? So a couple of quick things. I know not in the district, but Ward Pound Ridge is coming up on its 100th anniversary and the fire tower there is being restored. It's going to be the highest point in Westchester County. for those who are interested in climbing it and having that experience. I just want to put that on
Is that at Ward Pound Ridge you're talking about?
Ward Pound Ridge.
Oh,
And Muscoot Farm is having their 50th anniversary this fall. There'll be a big celebration in September. Summer camp registrations are in full swing. In fact, some of those spots are already gone. But for Somers families nearby, you have Muscoot, which people have been going to for years, my kid's favorite camp. You have Lasden. You have also now Hilltop. So 3 nearby options, all with county parks, summer camp programs. Some of the slots are gone, some are open, some have wait lists. It's definitely worth checking. There are all sorts of great programs. Of course, as the spring's coming, Lasden's plant sale is coming on May 17th to 18th. I know that's a big deal for some folks. Pre-sale is online right now and is running through April 16th. Sheep shearing, another big event around here, returns on May 11th to farm, that's also the first day of the farmer's market season there. Spring Run the Farm is on May 18th for anyone who wants to get out on the trails there. So 2 great weekends in a row with Muscoot. Muscoot also has a new program called Goats on the Go. So if you have a kid who loves goats, you can sign them up to take a goat for a walk at
Your kid
Muscoot
is-
Farm. I am not a kid, but I have registered myself. So just another item to put in there.
it is great.
We have new pathways coming into the Trail of Honor at Lasden, which is really important. Those things are not in the best of shape, and that's where we really need an update. And while we're talking about veterans, I want to mention that, earlier this year we passed legislation which created the Westchester County Parks Pass, a free parks pass for veterans. So anyone, this park season, it gives you a discount on golf. Mention golf. So this is a really great tool for all the veterans out there to go and get yourself a Parks Pass. Ward Pound Ridge is the local locations for picking one up. And we have a new app for the parks. So that makes booking golf tee times and everything much more easy as well. And also for those in our community who can't get out on the trails because of a disability, the Parks Foundation has their Trails Without Limits program. It's a very cool ATV type wheelchair vehicle that is amazing on the trails. You can get out there and it rotates around the park system. It's going to be in Muscoot for the rest of April, and you can get free slots on that. I've seen seniors, I've seen paraplegics, I've seen all sorts of people who used to be able to hike, can't hike anymore, people been out before, get out on these devices. You can register for your slots at the Parks Foundation website. And so I think that is.
Erica, when Mike Kaplowitz would come here, he always finished with one thing, which is Playland. About it.
So Playland update. So, Playland is a big, a bit of a mess. And Westchester County is untangling that mess. I mean, from the county's perspective, they always wanted to be the ones that were running Playland. So on a certain level, the county's getting its wish, but it's going to take a little bit to kind of get ready for that.
That company pulled out who was going to come.
The company
in,
pulled out.
pulled out.
Yep, they pulled out at
Okay.
perhaps the worst time of the year.
But it'll be open soon.
But we're working to get it open. I don't know exactly what that's going to look
Okay.
like for this year, but it's going to be open to some degree. And obviously, first priority though is to make sure everything's safe before we open a damn thing.
Yeah, it was,
Excuse me.
Oh, you go.
as was mentioned,
Live TV.
it was the worst time to do it, and letting us know and in the fashion, or letting the county know in the fashion they did, in the time they did,
Right.
makes it harder for the county to address, the safety, the availability
Yeah.
of these rides. To be clear, the legal process is ongoing still. That's not resolved yet.
Mhm.
The county has nevertheless, despite the ongoing legal situation, in consideration of the asset that Playland is to the community, to commit to having it open in some fashion. Hard to say until we get full access to it, what and how much it could be.
Yeah, if you grew up in Westchester, it's a big deal.
Big thing.
Nostalgic,
Oh,
I bring my nieces live on Long Island. I bring them in every summer to play. It's a great day. So any other questions? I mean, obviously we try to be accessible. I hope, you know that I am available here to support, whether it's Reese Park, your water project, anything. I am here to support the town. We here, we get 2 for the price of 1.
We assume you are too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the end of our part 1. Part three. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay.
All righty. Let's move on here to number 3. Ratify the supervisor's letter dated March 21st, 2025 to J. Elcano and Associates to terminate their grant writing consulting services effective March 31st, 2025. Can I get a motion to ratify?
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
So moved. Authorize the supervisor to approve and execute a 1-year agreement to provide grant writing consulting services with Millennium Strategies LLC for a flat monthly fee of $3,300 for an amount not to exceed $39,600 effective April 1st, 2025. Can I get a
Now,
motion?
one,
Go
one,
ahead.
one question. In talking with them personally, I thought that our arrangement is that any month we can pull out of this. Our agreement is to pay them that each month for a year. In fact, they told
It's a 1-year contract.
they would keep it. So he had said to me that anytime you, month by month, you want, we don't plan to do that. We're not going to do that. I just want to see if they misspoke or I misunderstood.
I'm looking at the contract right here. It's,
Okay. Well, I'm gonna
obligation
go
to
for it
go
regardless.
30 days after posting such notice. Either party
Yeah, 30 days.
Yeah, either party may terminate the agreement anytime. by-
Okay, so he was correct.
He
Okay.
was correct.
All right, good, thanks.
Make a motion to authorize.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move. Linda, we're going to take number 5 off. I'm going to put that till next week. Okay. Number 6, authorize the supervisor to accept Somers Town tax warrants for 2025. Make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, so moved.
Okay.
No additional business in Parks and Rec, no financial. Highway, there's nothing to discuss for this evening. Personnel do have some current vacancies, Affordable Housing Board, and also the Assessment Board of Reviews. And we also do have an upcoming vacancy that expires in 2025, and that is for the Veterans Committee. Planning and Engineering, authorize the supervisor to execute the stormwater facility maintenance agreement with 247 Route 100 LLC, Rock Ledge Center, resolution number.
Wow.
And then per memo dated March 18, 2025 from Steve Wolfel, Engineering Department. I'll make the motion to authorize supervisor to execute.
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Any comments here on Hilltop Development?
None.
Anybody?
No.
Nope. Okay, all good with the comments.
Yeah.
Proposed consensus agenda H, we'll move that to next week. All right, moving right ahead. Give some town board announcements.
Oh, good.
Clarification on the statewide burn ban. Wildfires commonly occurred in the spring during dry days and windy conditions. And open burning is the single greatest cause of wildfires in New York State. A statewide burn ban is in effect until May 14th. Somers Partners in Prevention is excited to present Empowering Families, Navigating Co-Occurring Disorders for the Resilient Future with Stephanie Marquezano, founder of the Harris Project, and Lorena, Rujak, Westchester County Encompasses Coordinator, and that is Wednesday, May 9th, and that's from 7 to 8:30, and that is online. Easter egg hunt sponsored by Paramount at the Somers Rehabilitation and Nursing Center. That is Saturday, April 12th, and that is from 10 to 12, and that is at 189 Route 100. There'll also be some face painting there, some petting zoo, bounce house, and more. Town of Somers annual egg hunt sponsored by the Somers Leos Club and the Parks and Recreation Department. That is Sunday, April 13th, and that starts at 9 a.m. There last pouring rain. It was, but the Easter Bunny did show up. Little kids had a great time and be able to take pictures with the Easter Bunny, of course. Somers Senior Programs Casino and Shopping Trip to Foxwood Casino and Tangier Outlets. That is Thursday, April 24th. Bus departs from Van Tassel House at 8 a.m. and returns at 7 p.m. $40 per person, $25 deposit, and that is due by the 15th of April. Snacks, beverages, and breakfast will be provided. You can sign up at with Princess Guerrera, 914-232-0807. Town of Somers Tree Board, Arbor Day event, tree planting, that is Friday, April 25th. That is 10 a.m. at Bailey Park. Household Recycling Day at FDR State Park. That's April 26th, 9 to 3. Town of Somers Suit Drive for the veterans in need. That's now through April 30th. We have about 6 boxes that are filled up right there. So great job, Town of Somers, and anybody else out there for dropping off some veterans suits for our veterans. And that takes place here from 9 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Westchester County Mobile Shredder coming to Somers. That is May 13th, 2025. Hold the date for Town of Somers Independence Day celebration. That is Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. And I did mention before about the 200th anniversary for the Elephant Hotel. That's May 31st, and that starts at 11 o'clock and goes to about 3 o'clock. I do have some fun facts. Patty sent them to me today. Patty is out for this evening. And fun fact number 1, Alaska is the only U.S. state whose name is typed using 1 row of the keyboard. Pretty good.
Well, that,
AK?
That is a fun, if that's not fun, I don't know.
That's a
what-
fun fact.
Ames, Alabama.
And the other one here are peanuts are used to make dynamite. Their oil is extracted to make glycerol, from which the explosive compound nitroglycerin is obtained.
We are not suggesting that anybody try that.
Try no one try that.
Are the Yankees off this week?
And she said, you don't have to read it, but I decided to.
Those are good ones.
Those were great fun facts.
Yeah, well, thank you, Patty.
Anybody else? Anything?
A couple quick things coming up real quick. May 2nd and 3rd is the Lions track meet at Somers High School. It is the 2nd largest track meet in the entire state. And also on May 14th through 18th is the carnival at Fireman's Field. And this year, yes, there will be Zeppelis,
Ooh,
guaranteed.
very nice. Tom?
and there'll be what? Raffles for sale for the car, right?
The everywhere. Those will be everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes, thank you.
Car raffles, right?
Never won.
That's a big
Yeah.
one.
That's a
Never,
big one.
never won.
Tom, anything?
I'm good.
Rich?
The Final Four, got my basketball tie on this weekend. Bill asked before, has it ever been all 4 number 1 seeds get to the Final Four? One other time, 2008.
2008.
That was the.
Who won that year?
It has happened.
I don't know either.
Alexa.
I know we got Alexa. Anthony, anything?
Go Yankees.
Oh, yeah. I have nothing else. So on that, I'd like to make a motion to close out tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Night, everyone.